Mitch, where are they? I demanded, my voice echoing through our once cozy living room. The space felt hollow now, stripped of the warmth my antiques had brought to it. My husband's eyes darted away, refusing to meet mine. Where's what, Lila? Don't play dumb with me. My grandmother's china cabinet, the Victorian lamp, the Tiffany vase. They're all gone. Mitch's shoulders slumped as he sank into the armchair, the one piece of furniture that remained untouched. I had to do it, Lila. The business needed a cash injection. The world seemed to tilt beneath my feet. I steadied myself against the wall, my fingers tracing the faded outline where the china cabinet once stood. You sold my antiques? Without even asking me. I tried to tell you, Mitch mumbled, his voice barely audible. But you were always so busy with work, and I didn't want to worry you. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. Worry me? Mitch, those weren't just things. They were memories, pieces of my family history. The doorbell rang, cutting through the tension. Mitch sprang up, relief washing over his face. That must be Mom and June. They're coming over for dinner, remember? Of course I remembered. How could I forget the weekly ordeal of hosting my mother-in-law and sister-in-law? But right now, their impending arrival felt like salt in an open wound. Tell them to go home, I said, my voice low and dangerous. I can't deal with them right now. Mitch's eyes widened. I can't do that, Lila. You know how Mom gets when we cancel last minute. Before I could protest further, the front door swung open. Doris bustled in, her arms laden with grocery bags. June trailed behind, eyes glued to her phone. There you are, Doris exclaimed, her gaze sweeping the room. My Lila. Redecorating again? It's about time you got rid of all that old junk. I bit my tongue, tasting blood. Mitch shot me a pleading look, silently begging me not to make a scene. Actually, Mom, Mitch began, his voice shaky. We had to sell some things. The business dash. Oh, hush, Doris interrupted, waving a dismissive hand. No need to explain. I'm sure Lila understands the importance of supporting her husband's dreams. June finally looked up from her phone, her eyes narrowing as she took in the room. Where's that ugly old lamp? Don't tell me you finally threw it out. Something inside me snapped. That ugly old lamp was worth more than your entire wardrobe, June. And now it's gone, along with everything else that mattered to me in this house. A heavy silence fell over the room. Doris's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. June's phone slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor. Mitch stepped forward, reaching for me. Lila, honey, let's not dash. I jerked away from his touch. Don't honey me, Mitch. You betrayed me. You sold off pieces of my heart without a second thought. Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not in front of these people who had never respected me or the things I held dear. I need some air, I muttered, pushing past Doris and June. As I reached for the doorknob, Mitch called out. Lila, wait. Where are you going? I paused, my hand on the door. Without turning around, I said, to find what's left of my life. Don't wait up. As I stepped out into the cool evening air, I heard Doris's shrill voice behind me. Well, I never. Mitch, are you going to let her speak to us like that? The door slammed shut behind me, cutting off whatever response Mitch might have given. For the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of something other than resignation. It was small but unmistakable. Hope. I returned home late that night, exhausted and emotionally drained. The house was quiet, but I could feel the tension lingering in the air like a thick fog. As I crept up the stairs, hoping to avoid another confrontation, Mitch's voice stopped me in my tracks. Where have you been? He asked, his tone a mixture of concern and accusation. I sighed, turning to face him. I needed time to think, Mitch, to process what you did. He reached out, his hand hovering uncertainly between us. Lila, I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I was just trying to save the business. Before I could respond, a shrill voice cut through the air. Oh, there you are. Finally decided to grace us with your presence. Doris appeared at the top of the stairs, her face twisted in a disapproving scowl. June trailed behind her, smirking. I thought you two were leaving, I said, struggling to keep my voice even. Doris huffed. And leave my poor son alone after the way you stormed out? I think not. I felt a headache building behind my eyes. Look, it's late. Can we please do this another time? No, we can't, June chimed in, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Mom and I have been talking to Mitch, and we think it's time you started pulling your weight around here. My jaw dropped. Excuse me. Mitch stepped forward, his face a mask of discomfort. What they mean is, well, with the business struggling, we thought maybe you could help out a bit more. Financially, I mean. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I already pay for most of our expenses, Mitch. What more do you want? Doris clucked her tongue. Now, dear. Is that any way to support your husband? In my day, wives knew their place. Something inside me snapped. Your day is long gone, Doris. And my place is wherever I choose it to be. June gasped dramatically. How dare you speak to Mom like that? Mitch, are you going to let her get away with this? I turned to Mitch, silently pleading with him to stand up for me, just this once. But he avoided my gaze, shuffling his feet awkwardly. Maybe we should all calm down, he mumbled. Doris seized the opportunity. Yes, let's calm down. And while we're at it, let's discuss how Lila can contribute more to this family. After all, we're all making sacrifices. I laughed bitterly. Sacrifices? Like selling my family heirlooms without my permission? Or constantly belittling and criticizing me? June rolled her eyes. Oh, please. Stop being so dramatic. It's not like those old things were worth anything. They were worth everything to me, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Mitch finally looked at me, his eyes pleading. Lila, honey, we're just trying to figure this out as a family. Maybe if you cut back on your personal expenses. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My personal expenses? You mean like the groceries I buy to feed your family every week? Or the bills I pay to keep a roof over our heads? Doris waved her hand dismissively. Details. The point is, we all need to pitch in during these hard times. I took a deep breath, trying to center myself. You want me to pitch in? Fine. Here's what I'll do. I'll stop paying for your weekly spa treatments, Doris. And June, you can say goodbye to the allowance I've been giving you behind Mitch's back. The room fell silent. Mitch's eyes widened in shock, while Doris and June sputtered indignantly. You wouldn't dare, June hissed. I stood my ground, feeling a newfound strength coursing through me. Watch me. From now on, I'm done being your personal ATM. If you want money, you can earn it yourselves. As I turned to leave, Mitch caught my arm. Lila, wait. We can work this out. I looked into his eyes, searching for the man I had fallen in love with years ago. But all I saw was a stranger, torn between his family and his wife. No, Mitch, I said softly. I don't think we can. With that, I walked away, leaving them all staring after me in stunned silence. For the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could reclaim my life and find my own happiness. The days following my confrontation with Mitch and his family were tense, to say the least. I threw myself into my work, staying late at the office to avoid going home. But I couldn't escape forever. One evening, I returned to find Mitch pacing in the living room, a stack of papers clutched in his hand. Lila, we need to talk, he said, his voice strained. I sighed, setting down my bag. What is it now, Mitch? He thrust the papers at me. I've found a way to save the business. We just need to take out a second mortgage on the house. My blood ran cold. What? Mitch, no. We can't risk our home like that. It's not a risk, he insisted, his eyes feverish with desperation. This deal is going to turn everything around. I can feel it. I leafed through the papers, my heart sinking with each page. Mitch, this is insane. The interest rates alone would cripple us. He waved off my concerns. We'll be fine. Once the business takes off, we'll pay it back in no time. And what if it doesn't take off? I asked, my voice rising. What then, Mitch? We lose everything. His face hardened. You never believed in me, did you? Always doubting, always criticizing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I've supported you through every harebrained scheme, Mitch. I've worked overtime to keep us afloat while you chased your dreams. But this is too far. The front door burst open, and Doris swept in, June trailing behind her. What's all this shouting about? Mitch turned to his mother, his expression pleading. Mom, tell Lila she's being unreasonable. The second mortgage is our only option. Doris's eyes lit up. Oh, is that all? Well, of course you should do it. A wife should support her husband's ambitions. Isn't that right, June? June nodded enthusiastically. Absolutely. Don't be so selfish, Lila. I felt like I was drowning, surrounded by people who couldn't or wouldn't see reason. This isn't about selfishness. It's about protecting our future. Mitch slammed his fist on the table, making me jump. Our future is my business. Why can't you see that? Tears pricked at my eyes, but I blinked them away. Because I'm the one who's been keeping us afloat all this time, Mitch. I'm the one who sees our bank statements, who pays our bills. This mortgage would ruin us. Doris clucked her tongue. Now, dear. Let the men handle the finances. Why don't you go make us some tea? Something inside me snapped. Make your own damn tea, Doris. This is my house, and I have every right to decide what happens to it. The room fell silent. Mitch stared at me, his face a mixture of shock and anger. Your house? I thought this was our house, Lila. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. It is. Which is why I'm telling you now. I won't sign those papers. I won't let you gamble away our home on another failed business venture. June gasped dramatically. How can you be so cruel? Mitch is your husband. And I'm his wife. I shot back. Not his ATM, not his doormat. His partner. And partners make decisions together. Mitch's face darkened. If you won't support me in this, Lila, then maybe we need to rethink our marriage. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. I felt a strange calm settle over me as I realized this might be the moment everything changed. Maybe we do, I said quietly. Doris and June erupted into a flurry of protests, but I tuned them out. I kept my eyes on Mitch, searching for any sign of the man I'd fallen in love with. But all I saw was a stranger, consumed by desperation and pride. As I turned to leave the room, Mitch called out, "Where are you going?" I paused at the doorway, not bothering to look back. To start rethinking our marriage. Don't wait up. With that, I walked away, my mind already racing with plans. If Mitch wanted to gamble away our future, he'd have to do it without me. It was time I started building a future of my own. The days blurred together as I threw myself into work, desperately trying to ignore the growing chasm in my marriage. But even as I buried myself in spreadsheets and client meetings, a small voice in the back of my mind whispered of escape. One evening, as I sat at my desk long after my coworkers had left, my friend and colleague, Sarah, popped her head into my office. "Lila, you're still here? It's past 9. I looked up, startled. "Oh, I guess I lost track of time." Sarah's brow furrowed with concern. "Is everything okay? You've been working late a lot lately." I hesitated, then the words tumbled out. "No, everything's not okay. Mitch wants to mortgage our house for his business, and I just can't." Sarah listened patiently as I poured out my fears and frustrations. When I finished, she leaned forward, her eyes serious. "Lila, have you ever thought about leaving?" The question hung in the air, both terrifying and exhilarating. I don't know. Where would I even go?" Sarah smiled. "You know, my aunt's selling her condo. It's not far from here, and it's beautiful. Why don't we go look at it?" The next day, we visited the condo. As soon as I stepped inside, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. Sun-drenched rooms, a small balcony overlooking a park, and most importantly, no memories of Mitch or his family. "It's perfect," I whispered. Sarah squeezed my arm. "You deserve this, Lila. A place of your own." That night, I couldn't sleep. The idea of leaving, of starting over, consumed me. I slipped out of bed and crept downstairs to our home office. With shaking hands, I logged into our joint bank account. My heart sank as I scrolled through the transactions. Large withdrawals, transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Mitch had been busy. A notification popped up on the screen. A new email from the bank. I clicked it open, my breath catching in my throat. Mitch had applied for a home equity loan without my knowledge. Anger and fear warred within me. I thought of the condo, of the life I could have. Before I could talk myself out of it, I initiated a transfer, moving a significant chunk of our savings into my personal account. As I hit confirm, I heard a creak on the stairs. Mitch appeared in the doorway, his face a mask of suspicion. "What are you doing?" he demanded. I straightened up, my heart pounding. "I could ask you the same thing. A home equity loan, Mitch?" "Really?" His eyes narrowed. "You're spying on me now?" "It's my house too," I shot back. "I have a right to know what's happening to our finances." Mitch advanced into the room, his voice low and dangerous. "You've never supported my dreams, Lila. Always holding me back, always doubting me." I stood my ground. "Your dreams are destroying us, Mitch. I won't let you drag us into bankruptcy." His hand slammed down on the desk, making me jump. "You don't get to decide that. I'm the man of this house." In that moment, I saw him clearly. Not the man I'd fallen in love with, but a stranger consumed by desperation and entitlement. "No," I said quietly. "You're not." I pushed past him, my mind made up. As I climbed the stairs, I heard him call out, "Where are you going?" I paused, not bothering to look back. "To pack." The next morning, I called Sarah. "That condo, is it still available?" Her voice was warm with understanding. "I'll make the call right now." As I hung up, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to dream of a future that was truly my own. A future without Mitch, without Doris and June, without constant criticism and financial stress. It wouldn't be easy, I knew that. But as I looked around at the house that no longer felt like home, I realized something important. I was stronger than I'd ever given myself credit for. And it was time to prove it. The tension in our house had reached a breaking point. Mitch and I barely spoke, dancing around each other like wary strangers. I spent my days at work and my evenings secretly packing, hiding boxes in the back of my closet. The condo was nearly mine. I just needed a little more time. One evening, I came home to find Mitch waiting for me in the living room, a strange glint in his eye. "We need to talk, Lila," he said, his voice unervingly calm. I steeled myself. "About what?" He pulled out a stack of papers. "I found these in your desk. Care to explain?" My heart dropped as I recognized the condo paperwork. I'd been so careful, but in my haste, I'd slipped up. "Mitch, I can explain dash." "Explain what?" He cut me off, his voice rising. "That you're planning to leave me? That you've been lying to me." I took a deep breath. "I'm not the one who's been lying, Mitch. You've been draining our accounts, applying for loans behind my back. What was I supposed to do?" His face contorted with anger. "You were supposed to support me. That's what a wife does. A wife is a partner, not a doormat." I shot back. "I've supported you through everything, but I won't let you destroy our future." Mitch laughed bitterly. "Our future? You mean your future. In this condo." Before I could react, he ripped the papers in half. The sound tore through me like physical pain. "There," he spat. "Now you have nothing." I felt something snap inside me. "I have nothing? Mitch, I am the only thing keeping us afloat. My job, my savings dash." "Your job?" he interrupted. "You mean the job you're about to lose?" Ice flooded my veins. "What are you talking about?" A cruel smile twisted his lips. "I called your boss today. Told him all about how you've been embezzling company funds. Showed him some very convincing evidence." The room spun around me. You what?" "Mitch, that's a lie." He shrugged. "It's your word against mine. And those transfers to your personal account? They don't look good, Lila." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The man I had loved, the man I had married, was threatening to destroy everything I had worked for. Why? I whispered. Why would you do this? Because you're mine, he growled. If I can't have you, no one can. The front door burst open, and Doris swept in, June trailing behind her. Oh, good, you told her, Doris said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. Lila, dear, we're here to help you through this difficult time. June nodded, a smirk playing on her lips. We know how hard it must be, losing your job and all. But don't worry, we'll take care of you. I looked from Mitch to Doris to June, the reality of my situation crashing down on me. They had me cornered, trapped. Everything I had worked for, everything I had dreamed of, was slipping away. But as I stood there, surrounded by their smug faces, something shifted inside me. A fire ignited, fueled by years of suppressed anger and resentment. No, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. You won't take care of me. I'll take care of myself. Mitch's eyes narrowed. What are you saying? I straightened my spine, meeting his gaze head-on. I'm saying it's over, Mitch. All of it. The marriage, the manipulation, everything. I'm done. Doris gasped dramatically. You can't be serious. After everything Mitch has done for you. I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. Done for me? He's done nothing but tear me down. But not anymore. I turned and headed for the stairs, my mind racing with plans. I had no job, no condo, but I had something they could never take away, my determination. Where are you going? Mitch called after me. I paused at the top of the stairs, looking back at their stunned faces. To pack. And this time, I won't be hiding the boxes. As I walked into our bedroom, soon to be just his, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead would be hard, but for the first time in years, I felt truly free. It was time to reclaim my life, no matter the cost. The weeks following my confrontation with Mitch were a blur of secret phone calls, hushed meetings, and sleepless nights. I'd managed to clear my name with my company, thanks to the help of a sympathetic HR manager who saw through Mitch's lies. But I knew I was living on borrowed time. Then, like a miracle, it happened. Sarah called with news that made my heart soar. Lila, the condo's yours if you want it. My aunt's willing to work with you on the financing. I felt a surge of hope. Sarah, you're a lifesaver. When can I move in? This weekend. My aunt's leaving town and can hand over the keys on Friday. It was perfect. Mitch had a business trip planned for the weekend. This was my chance. I spent the next few days in a frenzy of preparation, packing essentials when Mitch wasn't home and arranging for a moving truck. Every moment was fraught with tension, knowing that discovery could ruin everything. Friday morning arrived. Mitch left for the airport, kissing me on the cheek as if nothing was wrong. The moment the door closed behind him, I sprang into action. I called the movers, then reached out to my parents. Mom, Dad, it's time. I'm leaving Mitch today. My mother's voice was thick with emotion. Oh, sweetheart, we'll be right there. The next few hours were a whirlwind. The movers arrived, efficiently loading my belongings into their truck. My parents helped, offering silent support as we dismantled the life I'd built with Mitch. As we worked, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. It was too easy. Where were Doris and June? They usually showed up unannounced at the worst possible moments. My answer came just as we were loading the last box. A car screeched into the driveway, and Mitch burst out, his face contorted with rage. Doris and June were right behind him. What the hell is going on here? Mitch roared. I stepped forward, my heart pounding but my voice steady. I'm leaving, Mitch. It's over. He lunged towards me, but my father intercepted him. Don't you dare touch her, Dad growled. Doris pushed her way forward. You ungrateful little tramp. After everything we've done for you. I laughed bitterly. Done for me? You've done nothing but tear me down and use me. Well, I'm done being your punching bag. June sneered. Where do you think you're going? You have nothing without us. I have myself, I shot back. And that's more than enough. Mitch broke free from my father's grasp. You can't leave. I won't let you. It's not up to you anymore, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "I've already signed the lease on my new place. It's done." His face paled. "New place? But I destroyed those papers." "How did you dash?" "I have friends, Mitch. Real friends who support me. Something you wouldn't understand." As if on cue, Sarah pulled up in her car. "Lila, are you ready?" I nodded, turning to the movers. "We're done here." "Thank you." Mitch made one last desperate grab for me. "Lila, please. We can work this out. I'll change, I promise." For a moment, I hesitated. Years of manipulation and gaslighting had left their mark. But then I looked into his eyes and saw not love but fear. Fear of losing his control over me. "Goodbye, Mitch," I said softly. "I hope you find what you're looking for. But it won't be with me." I walked away, my parents flanking me protectively. Behind us, I could hear Doris and June's shrill voices, berating Mitch for letting me go. But their words faded as I climbed into Sarah's car. As we drove away, I watched my old life disappear in the rearview mirror. My heart was pounding, my hands were shaking, but for the first time in years, I felt truly alive. "You did it," Sarah said, squeezing my hand. "You're free." I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "I did it," I whispered. "I really did it." As we turned the corner, heading towards my new home and my new life, I realized that this wasn't just an ending. It was a beginning. My beginning. And despite the uncertainty ahead, I couldn't wait to see what came next. The morning I was to file for divorce, I woke with a mixture of dread and determination coursing through my veins. My new condo felt like a sanctuary, but I knew the real battle was just beginning. As I sipped my coffee, my phone buzzed incessantly. Mitch, Doris, June. Their messages ranged from pleading to threatening. I ignored them all. My lawyer, Patricia, had warned me this would be tough. "Mitch won't go down without a fight," she'd said. "Be prepared for anything." Those words echoed in my mind as I drove to the courthouse. My hands shook slightly as I parked, but I took a deep breath, steeling myself. This was my moment to reclaim my life. As I walked up the courthouse steps, I saw them. Mitch, Doris, and June huddled together like vultures. My heart raced, but I kept my head high. "Lila," Mitch called out, his voice a mixture of anger and desperation. "You can't do this. We can work it out." I kept walking, my eyes fixed on the courthouse doors. Doris stepped in front of me, her face twisted in a sneer. "You ungrateful little witch. After everything we've done for you, dash." "Save it, Doris." I cut her off. "Your manipulation doesn't work on me anymore." June grabbed my arm. "You'll have nothing without us. You'll be alone and broke." I yanked my arm free. "I'd rather be alone than suffocated by your toxic family." As I pushed past them, Mitch made one last attempt. "Lila, please. I love you. I'll change, I promise." For a moment, I hesitated. Years of conditioning made me want to believe him. But then I remembered the betrayal, the lies, the constant belittling. I turned to face him. "No, Mitch. You don't love me. You love controlling me. And that ends today." Inside the courthouse, Patricia was waiting. "Are you ready?" she asked, her eyes filled with concern. I nodded. More than ready. The next few hours were a blur of paperwork and legal jargon. But with each signature, each official stamp, I felt the weight of my past lifting. As we left the judge's chambers, Patricia squeezed my shoulder. "It's done. You're free." A wave of emotion washed over me, relief, joy, and a touch of fear for the unknown future. But before I could fully process it, I heard a commotion in the hallway. Mitch was arguing loudly with a security guard, trying to push his way towards me. Doris and June flanked him, their voices shrill with indignation. "You can't hide from us, Lila," Mitch shouted. "This isn't over." Patricia stepped in front of me protectively. "Mr. Thompson, I suggest you leave before we have to involve the authorities." Mitch's face contorted with rage. "You turned my wife against me. I'll ruin you." Something inside me snapped. Years of pent-up frustration and anger bubbled to the surface. I stepped around Patricia, facing Mitch head-on. "No, Mitch. You ruined yourself. You and your toxic family destroyed our marriage with your greed, manipulation, and cruelty. But I'm done being your victim. I turned to Doris and June. And you too. You're not family. You're parasites feeding off others because you're too entitled and lazy to stand on your own feet. Well, find another host. I'm cutting you off. The hallway fell silent. Mitch, Doris, and June stared at me, mouths agape. For the first time, I saw fear in their eyes. Fear of a future without someone to control, without someone to leech off. As security escorted them out, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. Patricia touched my arm gently. Are you okay? I took a deep breath, feeling lighter than I had in years. I'm more than okay. I'm free. As we walked out of the courthouse, I squinted in the bright sunlight. The world seemed different somehow, brighter, full of possibilities. I knew there would be challenges ahead, but for the first time in years, I was excited to face them. This wasn't just the end of my marriage. It was the beginning of my new life. And I couldn't wait to see what came next. 6 months after the divorce, I finally felt like I was finding my rhythm. My condo had become a true sanctuary, filled with new memories and free from the shadows of my past. Work was going well, and I'd even started dating again. Nothing serious, just enjoying the freedom to be myself. But as I've learned, life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. It was a quiet Sunday morning when the doorbell rang. I opened it, expecting my neighbor, only to find Mitch, Doris, and June standing there. My heart raced, but I stood my ground. What are you doing here? I demanded. Mitch stepped forward, his eyes pleading. Lila, please. We need to talk. Things have changed. I was about to slam the door when I noticed something different. The arrogance was gone from their faces, replaced by something I'd never seen before. Desperation. Against my better judgment, I let them in. Make it quick, I said, crossing my arms. Doris spoke first, her voice uncharacteristically subdued. Lila, dear, we've hit rock bottom. Mitch's business failed completely, and we have nowhere else to turn. June nodded, tears in her eyes. We've lost everything. The house, the cars. We're facing bankruptcy. I felt a mix of emotions. Satisfaction at their comeuppance, pity for their situation, and wariness of their motives. Mitch looked at me, his eyes red-rimmed. I know we have no right to ask, but we need help. Just until we get back on our feet. For a moment, I was tempted. Years of conditioning made me want to swoop in and fix everything. But then I remembered all the pain, all the manipulation. No, I said firmly. They stared at me, shocked. But Lila, Doris sputtered. We're family. I laughed, a short, bitter sound. Family? You've never treated me like family. You used me, belittled me, tried to control me. And now that you've burned all your bridges, you come crawling back. June started to argue, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. For years, I let you make me feel small, worthless. But not anymore. Your problems are your own. I won't set myself on fire to keep you warm. Mitch reached for my hand, but I stepped back. Lila, please. I know I made mistakes, but I've changed. We can start over. For a split second, I wavered. But then I saw it, that familiar glint in his eye. He thought he was winning, reeling me back in. No, Mitch, I said, my voice steady. You haven't changed. You're still trying to manipulate me, but it won't work anymore. I walked to the door and opened it. I wish you the best, truly. But your life is no longer my responsibility. It's time for you to stand on your own feet. They stared at me, a mix of anger and disbelief on their faces. But as they shuffled out, I saw something else, a grudging respect. As the door closed behind them, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The last ties to my old life were finally severed. My phone buzzed. A text from my parents, asking if I wanted to join them for lunch. I smiled, grateful for their unwavering support throughout this journey. I looked around my condo, at the life I'd built for myself. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Every decision, every triumph, every mistake. They were all my own. As I grabbed my keys to head out, I caught my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at me was stronger, wiser, and happier than she'd ever been. "You did it, Lila," I whispered to myself. "You're free." Stepping out into the sunshine, I felt a surge of excitement for what the future held. There would be challenges, of course, but for the first time in years, I was ready to face them head-on. This wasn't just the end of a chapter. It was the beginning of a whole new story, my story, and I couldn't wait to see how it unfolded.